Welcome in, everybody. Since it's the international break, it's a very light card in MLS as there's just 10 teams in action this week with 4 games taking place on Saturday and just 1 on Sunday. I'm going to create one parlay from these games, but also give some points on all 5 games since we have so few. Now, if you could, before I get started, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more MLS picks and picks in other leagues all year long. Now let's get into the Saturday games. And it starts with DC and San Jose. Now, DC is clinging to the last playoff spot in the East in 9th place with 33 points. San Jose is in a similar spot over in the West. They're 8th and they have 36 points. Now, neither team is in great form. DC won only 1 of their 3 Leagues Cup games, and then they lost 1-0, lost 3-1. And last week, they did beat Chicago, though, 4-0 coming out of the tournament. Now, still, that's just 1 win in 5 in all of their competitions. And even in MLS, it's also just 1 win in 5 and also just 3 wins in 10. The Quakes are in worse form and they're sliding down the standings. They lost both Leagues Cup games and they have just 1 win in 4 MLS games since. That 1 win was a 1-0 road win against Vancouver right out of the tournament, and it was a game where they were very much outplayed in. It's been a 3-0 loss, a 3-2 loss, and a 1-1 draw since. Now, combining the 2 competitions, they have just 2 wins in their past 12. Then there's their road form. For San Jose, they have just 2 wins in 15 across all competitions when you consider MLS, the Leagues Cup, and the US Open Cup. Against Eastern Conference teams in the regular season, San Jose has just 2 wins across their past 46 road games, which is horrendous, obviously. International call-ups this week we have for DC, they have fullbacks Najar and Davis. They got called up to Panama, and both did start last game. For San Jose, that whole left side of the formation from their last game got called up, with forward Cowell, midfielder Gruezo, and linebacker Traco. I don't love either of these teams right now. Obviously, neither are playing very well. DC has scored in 9 straight home games in MLS, though, and also in 12 of their past 13. So if I was going to pick someone here, it does look like a DC home win, or a DC double chance, or DC to score in a parlay. Let's move along to Miami and Sporting Kansas City. Now, could this be the spot where Miami finally slips up and the winning streak ends? It could be. They're 10-1-0 since the roster overhaul and Messi's arrival, and that includes a 3-1 beatdown of LAFC, the champions, in LA last week. But this week's Miami may look a lot like the old Miami before Messi got here, and that Miami was dead last in the standings. And that's because this week's team has a massive list of players called up for international duty. In fact, it looks like they have the most called up of any team in MLS right now. For Miami, the likes of Messi, Kramashi, Callender, Ascona, Gomez, Krivitsov, Martinez, Ruiz, and Taylor are all gone to their respective international teams. Meanwhile, there are minimal major absences for Sporting Kansas City. They will be without, though, midfielder Gadi Kinda, who's gone to Israel. That means Alan Pulido is in the lineup, as he won't be away. He scored twice last week, and when Pulido scores for SKC, they get about 1.6 points per game. Pulido has scored 12 goals on the season, and he's just 2 out of the Golden Boot lead. Sporting Kansas City may only be in 11th in the West, and they are a pretty woeful 1-6-6 away from home, but they're only 2 points back of the playoffs now, and they will be coming into this game on a high, having won their past 2 games by a 2-1 and 3-0 scoreline. Now, both of those came at home, and this one will be on the road, and Sporting Kansas City haven't won away from Children's Mercy since May 7th, which is now a stretch of 10 games. They are priced at plus 200 on the road for the win, and that looks like great value considering all the players that are away from Miami. But Miami just hasn't, they just have not lost yet since Tata Martino and Messi and all these guys came over. So I'm not sure if I do see Sporting Kansas City ending their road form, but even if they don't get the win, there is a makeshift roster in Miami. I don't see Miami keeping a clean sheet. Certainly Sporting Kansas City should score in this game. We'll move along now to Minnesota and New England. The Loons drew 1-1 with San Jose last weekend, making them undefeated in 4 games since the Leagues Cup. In fact, if you take out the Leagues Cup, they are 4-4-1 in their past 9 in MLS, so they've been in good form. Minnesota has scored in all 9 of those games, and there's been 2 or more goals in each of their past 13 in MLS. In all competitions, there's been 2 or more goals in 19 straight for Minnesota, and they've scored in 13 of 14. But the under 2.5 is also 3-1 since Leagues Cup. For New England, the under is 2-1 since Leagues Cup, but their last game was a 2-2 draw with Austin, as Austin scored late to tie it. In MLS, the Revs are still undefeated at home, but on the road, they're winless in their past 7. They've conceded a goal in 6 of those 7, and they've been outscored 13-7. But when you look at the international call-ups, Minnesota will have a key one missing, and that's new striker Pukki, who's gone to Finland, while Bongo may also still be injured, which takes away their scoring punch, but they still do have Manuel Reynoso, which will always give them a shot to get a goal. New England, they are missing midfielder Buck, defenseman McCoon on international duty. So there, I'm not sure. I'd still probably lean to Minnesota at home in that one. Portland and LAFC, it's a big clash out in the West, at least it usually is. Portland's not been great this season. LAFC is, though, still near the top of the Western standings. Now, earlier this season, LAFC won 3-2 at home. Chiellini opened the scoring in the 24th minute. Vea scored a PK in the 34th, and Opoku made it 3-0 in the 52nd. Portland did make it interesting, though, with goals in the 62nd and the 84th minute from Evander and Paredes. LAFC are undefeated in 4 games against Portland recently, as last year they drew 1-1, and they also won 2-1 in MLS, plus they took a 2-0 win in the US Open Cup. Now, when these teams meet up, it's almost always goals on the menu from a betting standpoint. There's been a minimum of 2 goals in each of the past 11 games when they played together. In 7 of those 11, there's been 3 or more goals, and in 10 of those 11, both teams have scored. Now, if you go to the 17 all-time meetings, both teams to score is also 14-3. Both teams to score in over 2.5 is also 11-6. If you just simply were looking for over 1.5, so 2 or more goals scored between them, that's 15-2 in those 17 games. But goals for these teams don't just happen in their recent past head-to-head meetings. For Portland, recently since Leagues Cup, their scores have been a 5-0 loss, a 3-2 loss, a 2-1 win, and a 2-2 draw last week versus Seattle. However, they were down 2-0 and only fought back after Seattle took a red card. LAFC's games since the Leagues Cup have been a 4-0 win, a 2-1 loss, and a 3-1 loss last week to Miami. In all competitions, they've scored in 10 straight games, though. In 12 straight, their games have seen 2 or more goals. On the road, LAFC have struggled with 1 win in 7, that being 6 MLS games and 1 CCL, and they've conceded a goal in 12 of 13 recent road games across all competitions. Looking at international call-ups for Portland, fullback Mosquera got called up. Now, neither Acosta or Araujo started last game, but they did both make the bench, and they have been called up, so there is some depth gone there as well. But LAFC will be missing some key offensive players in Buick and Buanga, as well as Oliveira, who were all called up, plus the defender Maldonado. They still have Carlos Vela, though, and he has scored 7 goals in 10 regular season games against Portland. He's only scored more against one other team, and that's the Galaxy in his MLS career. He has 9 goals this season, which is second behind Buanga. Now, he'll need to be involved in the scoring here to make up for the loss of some of those other players, and he'll also probably need someone from Mateus Bogus, Mario Gomez, or Nathan Ordaz to step up as well. Bogus has 3 MLS goals, Gonzalez 1, and Ordaz scored twice in the Leagues Cup. Now, let's go to the one game on Sunday. So it's a standalone match, and it's the LA Galaxy and St. Louis. Now, the West first place team, St. Louis, will host the 13th place LA Galaxy in this lone game on Sunday. Now, back in June, these teams played one of their meeting, and they drew 1-1, and that was in St. Louis. There's lots of ground for LA to make up if they want a chance to make the playoffs. But when you take out the Leagues Cup, they've been one of the hotter teams in MLS, being 5-5-1, so that's just 1 loss in 11. Since the tournament, they won 3-0 and 3-2 before drawing 0-0 with Houston last week. St. Louis has alternated wins and losses since the Leagues Cup. They won 6-3 at home, they lost 2-1 on the road, they won 2-1 at home, and they lost 2-1 on the road last week to their new rivals, Sporting Kansas City. That's now just 2 road wins in 10 for St. Louis. Now, win, lose, or draw, though, they lost 2-1 last week. That 2-1 loss last week extends a trend of games for St. Louis that has seen a lot of goals. Bets on over 1.5 all season in any game for St. Louis are now 28-3, so across any competition. In MLS alone, over 1.5 goals is 24-3. They are the highest over 2.5 team in MLS right now at 20-7. For LA in international call-ups, they will be missing Leardan and Zavaleta on defense. Now, those are some rotational players that don't always start, while St. Louis has no major call-ups to mention. LA is hot and St. Louis have been poor on the road, but clean sheets are rare for the Galaxy, having only shut out 3 teams in their past 17 in MLS. Now, those 3 teams were Houston in the last game. Now, Houston has been great this season, but they are a poor team on the road. Chicago, LA was also on at home for that one, and Chicago is not one of the more higher scoring teams in the league. And then Colorado, and that one was in Colorado, but Colorado is the lowest scoring team in the league, and they only have 16 goals. So when they do get those 3 clean sheets, they are not against some of the highest scoring teams, and St. Louis certainly is one of those. The Galaxy have back-to-back home clean sheets, but they have not had 3 straight home clean sheets in over 7 years. So when we put all this together and look at today's parlay for MLS round 31 this weekend. I'm going to go LA and St. Louis, both teams to score. Sporting Kansas City simply to score against Miami. Now you could end it there at minus 106 odds over at Caesars if you'd like. If you want to bump it up a bit, which I think I will, I'll go over 1.5 goals with Portland and LAFC. That will bring it to plus 129. A different option, if you wanted, would be to throw in Minnesota to score at plus 122 if you wanted to mix that into the parlay as well, instead of that over 1.5 with Portland and LAFC. So there you have it, a breakdown of each of the just 5 games this weekend in MLS. Hopefully I'll put together a winning parlay for us and also giving you some helpful tips on some of the other games as well. Be sure to let me know what your picks are this weekend in the comments down there. And good luck everybody with all of your MLS picks this weekend.